Hello, everybody. Who's ready for some fun stuff this evening? I'm hoping everything is going well. Facebook is never my friend on Monday evenings. I wish I would see all the technical things that just seem to happen Monday afternoon to Monday evening. So if you're joining us, welcome to the live video for this week. I have something really fun lined up for us later on and towards the end of our chat tonight. So if you can't stick around, I hope that maybe you'll come back later tonight or tomorrow or the next day and go to the end of the video because I have a really fun challenge for this week. Hello, Sherry. Hello, Mom and Kitty. How is everybody this evening? As we get started, I wanted to get started a little bit early to make sure that you can hear me and to get my phone all set up, but Facebook was not cooperating well with me. So bear with me for just a minute as I pull up our page on my phone and turn off the ringer. How is everybody this evening? We have lots of stuff to talk about tonight. So where are we? Let's see, groups, creative crew, and there we are. Hello, Diane and Peggy and Dee. Looks and sounds great. Good, because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I have a lot of stuff that I want to share with you all. Let's see, let me pull that back up so I can find it fast. So before we get started tonight, I just want to say that I've seen some posts come through from last week's challenge, and that was so much fun, and it really gave me an idea to maybe start incorporating a challenge into our live videos. So I have a really fun one lined up for us this week. I have coffee and I have tea. I'm ready to go. Hopefully my voice bears with us. We'll see. So grab some snacks because I think unless I go through all this stuff really quick, we're going to have quite a bit of stuff to talk about today. So we're going to jump right in this evening. Let me pull up my screen here. And first, I just want to say, if you see the little red live notification at the top of the video, you are watching live. And if you don't see that, you're watching the replay. But either way, I would love for you to say hello and to type where you're from, because believe it or not, you probably have a neighbor watching that lives pretty close to you. So I always find that fascinating. We live in a very, very small world. So say where you're from, and I think that'll be fun. So tonight we're going to start with a slideshow, and we have 3 different people who have submitted pictures for the slideshow. And let me just start by saying, Miss Patty, I saw your post just a few minutes ago on the announcement. However, my Facebook on my computer is not working correctly. The announcement does not show up. And I've tried several times to upload some files that has something to do with our challenge for this week, and it won't let me. I can see the announcement on my cell phone, but not on my computer. So I was not able to grab your picture and bring it over, but I did see that. So we're going to talk for a second about Patty's picture. She was talking about how she loves using her Cricut, and it looks like, Patty, that maybe you used some vinyl to create a t-shirt block. Is that what you did? I would love more information about that. So I think that's fantastic if that's what you're doing with your Cricut, using up scrap pieces of t-shirt material and making your own blocks. I would love to learn more about what you're doing with that. So I hope you share some information about that. So we're going to jump right into the slideshow. And again, Patty, I apologize for my technical difficulties. Make sure we're still going. Okay. All right, I'm free to continue. I always have this fear that I'm just talking to myself and Facebook has stopped. All right, we're going to start with a slideshow this evening, and then, believe it or not, we have 8 topics to talk about and then a challenge. So I'm thinking that this might be one of our longest chats. So I totally understand if you have to go before we're done, but please come back tomorrow and check out our challenge for this week. Also, go to the announcements if you can and check out Patty's picture that she posted. It's all the way at the bottom of the comments. So before my Facebook started messing up today, and I'm glad I was doing this throughout the day, because if I waited until right before we started, I wouldn't have been able to get any of these. We're going to start with Mrs. Susan. And Susan has 3 pictures that we're going to look at. The first one is something that she created as part of our challenge last week. And I believe she has a post on our group page about it. And so you can go and read that, but she made a ladder to display her quilts on. And she plans on using this at craft fairs to display her quilts. And the idea came from watching lots of YouTube videos. So that's how she made it. I guess she watched a ton of YouTube videos and she created this. How awesome is that? Now, you know, I've seen every time I go to an antique show or a flea market, I'm always on the hunt for wooden ladders for this very purpose, but they are so expensive. So Susan, if you could pass along some of the videos that you watched in order to make your ladder, we would all appreciate that, because look how pretty that is with the quilts on it. I think that that would be a really eye-catching display in your craft booth. And I really think that displays really make your presentation. And this says homey and quilts, and I love it. It's so pretty with all of the quilts draped over. And then she has one more picture. A Dresden made from ties. Now she says for this, she is making this for a client. It's going to be a wall hanging. And she is looking for ideas on how to quilt this and what colors to use for the thread when she's doing the quilting. So if you all have any ideas for Susan on how to quilt this, I'm sure she would appreciate the feedback. I know that when I quilt my Dresdens, I do all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I just quilt around the center applique, like a stitch in the ditch around the center, and then stitch in the ditch around the shape of the the Dresden plate. And if the Dresden's not too thick, then I'll go inside each one of the blades and do some quilting. And sometimes I just I'll try to find a picture of it, because in the quilt that we did, Hope, Dream, and Love, that mystery quilt, I did some really fun quilting on that Dresden plate. And it just went like a loop inside up towards the tip, a loop towards the very tip of the Dresden, loop back and come back down towards the center. So it was very easy, very simple, but it gave a really fun and very pretty dimension in the quilting for that. So you can go through Lisa Capen Quilts. There's pictures of that. You have to scroll through quite a bit, but I'll see if I can't post some pictures for you to see on that. But also maybe some others have some advice for the quilting. I love the ties. I think this is going to be so pretty. And as far as thread color, you know, I always say you can't go wrong with gray, because it just really blends into everything. So I would say like a dark gray, but maybe you'll get some other really good suggestions also. So I can't wait to see what you do with the quilting, and I hope you keep us updated on this. and I'm sure your client is going to love it. Good job, Susan. Very pretty. Let's see, I have to be on my game tonight because we have a lot of clicking back and forth. Next, we're going to go to Mrs. Barbara. Barbara said, last Monday, Lisa asked for members to do something they had not done for a while. So I got out my tower of beads and Swarovski crystals and made necklaces and bracelets and earring sets. And so I absolutely love that. I love that you took out something that you haven't used in a long time and rediscovered your passion for your beads. And so let's take a picture, or let's take a look at what Barbara is doing. How pretty is that? Now, I certainly think, y'all, that when I save the pictures from Facebook, they usually save really small. And then when I bring them over into this program, I sort of enlarge them a little bit, and it distorts the look of the picture or the quality of the picture. And so, unfortunately, the quality of the picture doesn't really show as well as it does in the original post. So, the picture's not as clear. I think that's what I'm trying to say, as I would hope it would be. But that is so pretty. When I go to the quilt show, the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival in February, there's all kinds of booths that have Swarovski crystals that you can put onto quilts. Have you ever done that? Do you have any of those crystals, and have you put them on quilts? I would love to see pictures. Every year I always say I'm going to buy some and do that, and then I spend my money in another booth or on something else, and the crystals have taken a backseat for the last 3 years, but they're on my list for this coming February. We'll see if I get them. Barbara, I'm so happy for you, and I hope you continue to share your beading work, your earrings, and your bracelets, and your necklaces, and keep sharing the pictures with us, because I find that very, very fascinating. Making sure that I don't have any more pictures to share from Barbara. See, that challenge was so much fun, y'all. I'm glad we did that. And then we have one more set of slideshow pictures. And Anne said, this is one of 2 pillows that I just finished yesterday to give my daughter for her birthday. I love cross stitch, and this is black work that I found on Pinterest. So let's take a look at the first pillow. Now, I have to say, I'm all about the black work and the red work. In my embroidery software, you can design all kinds of stuff that will stitch out black work, red work. You could do it in blue and call it blue work, I guess. But yes, to fill in the cat area, did you do that all by hand? Because that looks like so much work. That is just super duper impressive. I absolutely love it. But yes, I got on a trend last year about red work, and I never did anything with it. So maybe I should challenge myself to maybe pull that back out, because I think it is just extraordinary. And if you're doing that by hand, I'm even more impressed. I think she's going to love that. And we have one more picture to show. Let's see. Figure this out, Lisa. There we go. This is the second pillow that I made for my daughter's birthday. This one was my very first time using piping around the edge. Any tips you can give on piping, specifically going around the corners, would be greatly appreciated. Also, I found this black work pattern on Pinterest. So again, with the black work, I am just super duper impressed. I can't wait. Hopefully you're here, and if not, if you come and watch the video, you give us more information about the black work. If you're doing it by hand, or if you're digitizing this for your embroidery machine, I would love to just know more about it. Second, the piping around the pillow, I have avoided that. I've never done it. I've watched a million YouTube videos on it, and just this week, which I find very funny, I watched some videos about it because I made some pillows for a t-shirt quilt order, and the pillows go with the t-shirt quilt. And I inserted zippers at the bottom of the pillows. I did not do a piping, but I've always wanted to do it. But doing it with a client's order is, I need to do it with my own stuff and really learn how to do it. So I am really super impressed and proud of you for doing the piping on this pillow. If you had troubles around your corners, I can't tell from your picture because it looks really, really fantastic. So I hope that your daughter is super surprised by her birthday presents. You've invested a lot of work, and I know you should be really proud of these two pillows. They're fabulous. You must be a cat person. So that is our slideshow. Thank you all so much for sharing your pictures. And Patty, again, I do apologize. Facebook is not playing along with me this evening, but make sure to go into the announcements for this week, scroll to the bottom, and check out Patty's picture too, because I don't want to leave her out. I feel bad. Just going to make sure that we're still going. Where is the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Show? Hampton, Virginia. It's at the Convention Center near the Coliseum on Mercury Boulevard. And what's really fun is that when we lived in Hampton before a big move this summer, we lived, let's see, it took me 4.5 minutes to get there. So that was really convenient. Now we live about 30 minutes away. So it won't stop me from going. I'm going. But before the move, we were just right down the street from that. Barbara says, yes, I have this crystals to add to the quilts. I've seen, when you walk through that quilt show, I don't know if you've ever been or been to a larger quilt show like that. They have all the quilts on display, and there are some quilts there that have like center medallions, and they have the crystals that just spread out from the center. And it is just, it's a very simple concept, but it adds like this wonderful effect to the quilts. I'm always super impressed when I see them on there. I see lots and lots of comments. I can't wait to the end because usually that's when I'm able to go back and read all of your comments and see your conversations. I always feel like I'm missing the conversation because I'm just talking to myself. But I'll go back when we're all done tonight and I'll catch up on all of your comments. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And when we're done, I'll come back and hopefully somebody else can help you too. So tonight we have 8 different topics. And I'm hoping that I can stay on my game with all of these topics. Y'all, we had 37 new members this week. That seems to be about the average number of people joining. So if this is the first time you've joined our live video, I'm so glad you're here. And I hope you come back next week. We do slideshows where we can feature your work that you're working on or something that you finished. Or or if you have questions, you can post them and post pictures. And yeah, this is what we do on Monday evenings. We've done it maybe four or five Mondays now. So it's a lot of fun. Coffee. Okay. So for our topics this evening, first, we're going to start with Mrs. Bonnie. And she says, Lisa, would you talk about the best way to press a hexagon quilt since I did not press during the assembly? It sure seems like there is a lot of bulk at the points. I did use your YouTube video for assembly. So what I did earlier today, Miss Bonnie, is I went to YouTube and I found this video. So if you go to YouTube and you search how to press hexagons with Emily Breeclaw, a video comes up. I typed in the address, but that's a lot to write down, and pretty sure you can't copy and paste that from our video screen. So what I'm going to attempt to do, if this will let me, is I'm going to bring us over to that video and show you what the video looks like. And I don't think you'll be able to hear exactly what she's saying because I have my headphones plugged in, so there's not a lot of feedback. But I'll show you exactly what she does. Let's hope this works. How to press hexagons. Is it going to work? Y'all bear with me for just a second. It might be too much for my computer to handle. I'm not sure. I hope it works. It might be too much running in the background going live. And the streaming. All of that stuff might be too much. Not gonna do it. And I hope I didn't mess this up. All right, so it's not gonna do it. So what I'm gonna do when we're done with the live, if we're still going live, now that I've done that, is I will post a link to that video. Oh, goodness. Oh, I'm good. Okay. I'm going to post a link to that video because I know you can't click on the video for that link. And she shows you the difference in pressing little squares and nesting your seams and how to press your hexies. And she does a great job explaining it because I didn't explain that in my video. That was the first time I made a hexagon quilt, and my focus was really how to do the Y seams, and I did not show how to press it. But what she does is she presses, okay, so you know how if we're doing patchwork and we're doing this row and then we have the next row of seams, we press them in opposite directions so that those seams nest. With her hexagons, she presses all of the seams, every single row, in one same direction. And so you'll see that in the video, and it helps all of your seams do this little pretty little spiral on the back side of your quilt, and that helps it lay down a little bit in that intersection where your Y seams are. And so that reduces some of the bulk in your seams. So I'll post a link, but you can also search for how to press hexagons with Emily Breeclaw, and she shows an excellent demonstration of that. I wish I could show the video, but too much for my computer this evening. So, yes, Bonnie, I will post a link to that. If you can't find it, check back later. I also had problems on Facebook right before we started sharing posts on our page. And so I don't know if they're updating Facebook or something. Of course, they're doing it this evening. So as soon as I'm able to, I'll post that link. That is our first topic for this evening. And Bonnie, I think you're going to find that video very, very helpful. Our next topic of discussion, and I was going to bring up this video too, but I'm not going to even try. So I'll post a link of this video on our page as well. Melissa said, how about something on squaring up a large quilt? So Melissa, I don't know if you've ever watched, it was one of my very first t-shirt quilt series. T-shirt quilt along number 4 was the video where we quilted the quilt and then I squared it up. And in that video, I demonstrate how I square up a larger quilt. And I'll just run you through it real quick, but it might be helpful to check out that video. And it's right towards the end, like the last 5 or 10 minutes of that video. I show you a short description on how I square up quilts. And I do think that there are several other videos from other video creators on YouTube that show it as well. So if you have any more questions, you can search for those. But to find a quick little reference, check out that video. But what I do is I start with a large square ruler. The largest one that I have is like a 16-inch, or maybe it's 15.5-inch square ruler, and I start with my corners. And the first thing I do is lay that square ruler right along one of my corners, and I trim away and square up each one of those corners. And then I take the longest ruler that I have, and I use those cut marks as a reference and finish cleaning up the sides of my quilt. There's probably a lot of different ways to do that. But that's just how I do it. I think that's the easiest way for me, is to start with the corners and make sure that those are nice and square. And then the sides, you're just really trimming up to match the same as your corners. Sometimes, if a quilt is very, very square, I just trim away all the extra right from the long arm. And I do have a video on that too somewhere. And but yeah, most of the time I square it up on my table, starting with a square ruler and then switching over to my longest straight ruler. And check out that video. I think it's like at the 55-minute mark. The crazy thing is I have all of these pages already like bookmarked so that I could pull up the video, but we're not going to try it. Making sure we're still here. So Melissa, I hope that that's helpful. Start with your corners, then do your edges, and check out that video. I'll post a link when we're all done, as soon as Facebook starts behaving and lets me do that. So I'm setting Bonnie and Melissa to the side so I can post those links. And that is topic number 2. Next, we're going to move to Tracy's question. And she asked, do you wash all the quilts before giving them to the person that ordered it? And if so, do you wash and dry? Or how do you wash and dry? Yes. The only one quilt that I did not wash was here recently. I made a quilt. It had the McDonald's sweater in the center That quilt was so huge. And she wanted it extra thick. And so it had a very high loft batting and like a polar fleece on the back of the quilt. And the quilt was like 100 inches wide and 116 inches long. And it would not fit in my washer. And I felt really bad because usually I do wash my quilts before giving them to the person who it's going to, but it just would not fit in my washer. I tried. So that's the only quilt that I've never washed. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why I do wash my quilts. And of course, we're all different. I know a lot of people who do not wash their quilts before giving them away, and that's okay. I'll tell you the reasons why I do. And I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them all. First, some of my reasons would be that I do not pre-wash any of my fabrics, and that includes my binding fabric, that includes my backing fabric, and that includes any other fabrics that I might have added to the quilt top. I'm just not a pre-washer. And I know we're all split. Like, there's a certain number of people who do pre-wash fabrics, and then there's a certain number of people who do not. I'm in that category of those who do not. So before, can y'all hear my bird? Before I give that quilt away to the person who ordered it, I want to wash and make sure that all those dyes from the backing and the binding fabrics, anything that I've added to the quilt, if it's going to bleed, I want to catch it. I want to be the person in control of that. And I throw about 7 color catchers in the wash. I wash it on cold. And then, like the bedding setting, I have that on my washer for like larger, heavier things. And then in the dryer, I just do the normal setting for bedding. So it's like warm dry or hot dry bedding setting. Try to say that 4 times. The bedding setting. So I want to catch all those dyes. And if it bleeds, I want to be able to be in control of that. And the color washers catch everything. I've had one problem one time with a t-shirt quilt that I added maroon colored sashing, and the maroon bled into the white shirts, and so that had to go through the wash several times to get that out. And I would have felt horrible if that quilt had gone to the client and they washed it and that happened. So I was able to control that and get all the bleeding out. It took several washings. I think I had to use vinegar, and it was a big process, but I did get it out. But I was in control of it. So that's one of the reasons. And because I don't pre-wash my fabrics, there's going to be some shrinkage. Well, I quilt my quilts very heavily with like a meandering stitch mostly. And so that sort of controls a lot of the shrinking. Washing on cold helps. And then using the normal heat setting in the dryer is usually sufficient to keep the shrinking from happening too much. And then once you wash and dry the quilt one time, I've personally never experienced a problem with it shrinking more after that. So again, I'm in control of what it does during the wash process. Another reason why, let me get a sip of tea. Goodness. Another reason why I wash my fabrics or my quilts before the client comes is because when you do a quilt and you're freshly done with the quilting and the binding, and it looks very perfect and plump and very pristine looking, it makes for a beautiful presentation. However, it's only going to stay like that if you never wash it. Once you wash the quilt, it takes on a whole other personality. It looks cuddly and wrinkly and cozy. There's like a homespun look to a quilt once it's been washed. And so that's one of the reasons why if you go to a quilt show, all of those quilts on display more than likely have never been washed. They're very pristine and crisp looking. However, the quilts that you use at home on your beds or to snuggle with watching TV, they look very soft and homey looking. When my client comes to pick up their quilt, I want them to see it the way that it's going to look forever. Not to say that you have to wash them, because I know lots of people who make quilts on commission who do not wash their quilts first. I think it's totally different from quilt maker to quilt maker, but I'm always worried that a client's going to come pick up their quilt, and if I haven't washed it, it looks so pristine and perfect. I'm always scared that they're going to throw it in the wash a month from now, put it through the dryer, and it's going to come out looking totally different than what they've seen their quilt look like the last month. And they're going to maybe think that they've ruined their quilt when actually it's not ruined, it just looks different, and that's how it's going to look forever. So my thinking is that when the client comes to pick it up, I want the quilt to look like the way it's always going to look like for the rest of its life. That's another reason why I pre-wash or wash my quilts before they come. And that could just be me. Another reason is that I know I do like a really good job putting my quilts together. However, I want to check all those seams. The washers and dryers, they tumble your quilts around. If anything's going to happen to your seams, it's going to be in the washer and dryer more than likely. And I want to inspect the quilt when it's done. And so I'm going to put it through the test and wash it, dry it, and then lay it out and look over that quilt to see if any of my seams have popped, come loose, maybe I forgot to sew a seam. You don't ever know. So I just want to do like a really good inspection, and that is a good test for, are your seams going to hold up? Is the quilting good and solid? Are there any loose sections? You know, I just want to check and make sure. So that's another reason why I wash my quilts. And then the last reason, really, is because, pardon me, drinking the tea. You know, well, since we've moved, my studio is way different. I have carpet on my floor. It's a much cleaner environment. However, stuff gets draped on the floor. I use chalk markers to mark the centers of my logos. Sometimes I use water-soluble markers. Pretty much it's just been draped on the floor. I want to wash all of that stuff out. I want it to be nice and clean and smell fresh and like freshly laundered. You know what I'm saying? And in my other studio before we moved, the floor was not finished, and I just felt like if it draped on the floor, it really needed to be washed. So that's just my thinking. I want it to be nice and clean. Get all those chalking marks and everything washed out, and I want it to smell good when they pick it up. So those are the reasons why I wash. And wash on the bedding cycle. I wash in cold water, throw in lots of color catchers, and dry on the normal drying setting. If you have a bedding setting on your dryer, choose that, and yeah, you should be good. I hope that answers your question and I wasn't just rambling on. Let's see. So there you go, Miss Tracy. Those are the reasons why I wash my quilts. Again, I think we're all different. I don't think it's wrong if you don't wash your quilts first. We're all different, and that is okay. Let's see, we're on topic number 4. We're still going live, I'm thinking. Yes, okay, good. All right, we're moving on to topic number 4 from Susan. It says, hi Lisa, is there a reason for pressing seams towards the dark side? Now I will say, Susan, about a week ago, maybe it was going on 2 weeks ago, I want you to scroll through our post here on our page, because someone had an issue with one of their seams that wasn't pressed to the dark side. I'm thinking that was the post. So the reason why we press our seams towards the dark side is, let's say that you have a white piece of fabric and let's pretend like this is a dark piece of fabric, and we sew these two together. If we press this dark fabric seam towards the white section, when we layer our quilt, it's very possible, if this is a thinner fabric, one that you might be able to see through, you might see the darkness of the black fabric seam underneath your white piece of fabric. And so mainly that's the reason why I'm messing all my stuff up. That's the main reason why we press to the dark side, is because we don't want to see that dark seam underneath of a lighter fabric, and it's very well possible that that could happen. And really, I think that's the reason why we do that. I could be wrong. There might be more reasons, and so if you know of more reasons, you can type them out and help Mrs. Susan. But for me, that's the reason why I would do it, just to help keep those dark fabrics from shining through the lighter blocks. Trying to think if there's any other reasons why I would do that, but I think that that's probably a really good reason. If you have more reasons, I would love it if you share them in our comment section. And I hope that that was helpful. But we're going to be talking about pressing seams a lot this evening. We talked about pressing seams on our hexagons, pressing to the dark side, and now Barbara says, any advantage to pressing the seams open? So what I did is I just made some notes, and so y'all, I'm going to be looking down, because I make the notes for a reason, because I will forget and I'll be like, oh yeah, I meant to say this and I meant to tell them that. Can't tell if we're still live. So again, okay, so this goes back to, it varies from quilter to quilter, much like pre-washing your fabrics or pre-washing your quilts when they're done before your client picks them up. Pressing the seams open varies from quilter to quilter, and I will tell you that the only times that I really press my seams open is when I am putting fabrics together to make my quilt backs. I press those seams open because they seem to lay flatter on the back of my quilt. When I make my binding, I press those seams open because that tends to lay a little bit flatter in my binding. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was making some pinwheel blocks, and I found that those lay flatter if I press my seams open. Everything else, I press either to one side or the other. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why I press my seams one side or to the other. Number one, it's much faster. I have to fiddle with getting those seams open, and that is time consuming for me. and it is just way faster to just press those seams to one side. And that's one of my biggest reasons right there. I also love that you can nest your seams, which really help if you're making patchwork, to really get those points. Let's say you're making a 4 patch, to really get those points right in the center. It is so helpful if you're nesting your seams. So I love the fact that you can do that if you've pressed one side or to the other. I think there's a lot of arguments or discussions, I don't want to say arguments, about seams that are pressed to the side tend to be stronger than seams that are pressed open. I see that discussion a lot on blogs and on Facebook groups, even on YouTube videos. So I'm curious, for all of you, do you press your seams to one side or do you press them open? And do you think that pressing to the side makes them stronger? One of the reasons why I think that pressing to the side might be a little bit stronger is when it comes to the quilting part. If you have, let's say you have 2 blocks that have come together and you've pressed those seams open, in between those blocks will be your little threads. That's really all that's in between those 2 blocks now. If you're quilting and you're doing a stitch in the ditch and you are actually stitching in that seam, not next to it, you're stitching in that seam, really all you're quilting through is your thread, right? I mean, that's my thinking. Where if you have pressed to the side, there's fabric that you're catching if you're stitching in that seam. That's one of the reasons why I think that pressing to the side might be a stronger seam. I could be wrong. And I would love to hear your thoughts about it. But those are mine. Checking out my notes. I will say, I'm not quite sure why this happens to me. When I made my pinwheel blocks, I made them both ways. I nested my seams, pressed all my seams to the side on one pinwheel block, cut out all the same exact pieces, same measurements, and I pressed my seams open on that one. The one where I pressed my seams to the side, my block was supposed to finish at like 8.5 by 8.5, and it finished at 8.25 by 8.25. So I don't know if pressing to the side ate up some of the finished size of my block. When I pressed my seams open, it stayed at 8.5 by 8.5. I don't know why. Maybe somebody else knows why. But usually I press to one side or the other. The advantage to pressing the seams open, I would really say that sometimes certain patchwork blocks might lay flatter if you've pressed them open. I could almost say that sometimes they lay flatter if you press to one side or the other too. I don't know. I think that this topic is one that's like really open to debate because I think you can make arguments for both methods of pressing. But I press to one side mainly because it's a lot faster. And time is money. And my fingers trying to spread open those seams with a hot iron right there is pretty much cause for disaster and burns for me. Kind of curious to see what everyone else says if they press to one side or the other. I'm hoping that we're still live. Let's see. I'll look down for just a second. Okay. Kitty says she lost me. I hope I come back. I hope we're still live. You never really know. We're just guessing. So, Barbara, I hope that that information is helpful. I think I made more arguments or advantage points to pressing to one side than I did for open. But for certain, I do press my seams open for my backing and my binding. Our sixth topic is from Mrs. Monica. We have two topics from Monica. Our first one is I saw the picture from Susan, and I was wondering how you all store or display your quilts besides hanging on your walls. A few of mine are on a ladder, and I have pictures to share of Monica's display. And so really, this is a call for action. Sometime this week, we would all love to see how you display your quilts. Usually mine are draped over a quilt rack in our family room or hung up on a wall. And that's how I display my quilts. But I love the ladder idea. And Monica has two pictures that we're going to take a look at of how she displays her quilts. This first picture is of Monica's and her quilts on her ladder. And going back to the ladder, I love that idea. I've been on the search for one for some time now, but I might have to take up Susan's idea and make my own. We're like, Harlan, can you make me a ladder? Can you make me 5 ladders? So I love that. I think it's perfect to display your quilts on it like that. I would love to see all of these quilts too. So if you have time, Monica, and you take pictures of these, we would love to see those. The second way she displays her quilts is in a basket. Now, I'd never seen this idea before, and I really love that. I've seen pictures of people that have cabinets with the glass doors and they're all folded up in the cabinet and you can see just a small glimpse of the quilt. I love that. And this is a little bit like that. For me, it's almost a teaser because I'm like, what is in your basket? You have to pull that out and show me. I would not be able to walk into your house and not pull those out and take a look. But I do think it is a fantastic display. So for everyone who's watching, we have a call for action because Monica and myself, we would love to see how you display your quilts in your home. You can take pictures and post them on our group when you have a chance sometime this week. And maybe it'll give us all some ideas. I'm pretty simple, y'all. I either put them on a bed, put them on a quilt rack, or put them on a wall. Other than that, they're folded up and stored away. And I would love some ideas like the ladder to display some pretty quilts. So there's a call for action for this week. Y'all start taking some pictures and show us how you display your quilts. Post in this week's group. Yes. All right. Number 7. Let's see. Another nice topic, maybe. This little quilt. Let me focus, Lisa. There we go. All right, here's the quilt. This little quilt with a feather weight was a totally flat piecing and applique pattern. I made it a 3D quilt. Did anyone else adjust a pattern so it looks different, awesome, beautiful, etc.? If you need more pictures, let me know. I think this is fantastic. And first, let me just say, I love the sewing machine theme. I love the sewing machine applique. I've wanted to do a quilt, sewing themed quilt for some time. I have some other projects ahead of that, but I love this. And the second thing I noticed right off the bat was the crosshatched quilting that you did is superb. I love crosshatching. It's one of my favorite quilting patterns. And so those two things stuck out first when I saw your quilt. And then I was like, whoa, I see what she's saying, the 3D element of the quilt block that's coming away from the quilt. And that is so, so awesome. Sorry, I'm looking down. I'm looking at the picture. So, yeah, if you have more pictures, we would love to see them. And this is another call of action. If you have quilt projects that you've done that have a 3D element to your quilt, we would love to see them. I think it's fun, usually 2 or 3 times a year. I see this post on Facebook of this small little wall quilt, and it looks like a 4-patch. I can't really remember off the top of my head, but down towards the bottom, one of the patches is empty, and they've given it little arms and legs, and it's dangling underneath of the quilt. I'm sure many of you have seen that picture. But that sort of goes along the lines of, I don't know if that's 3D or not, but it's also a really fun effect and gives the quilt a lot of character. So a call of action to everyone from Monica is that if you've done any 3D type of quilts or something that adds some dimension to your quilts, I hope that you post pictures so that we can all see them this week. And I think that would be a lot of fun to look at, and it might inspire some ideas for some of us. That's really fun. I love the cross hatching. That is fantastic. I was going to say, just like that, we've gone through 7 topics. We have one more, but it's almost been an hour. And I'm hoping. Yes, we're still live. Fantastic. Thank you, Facebook, for playing along with me this evening. Let's see. Our 8th topic is from Maureen. I have an old Brother PE 100 embroidery machine, no longer made or supported. It was given to me without hoops, and I can't get hoops for it now. Can I use a regular embroidery hoop? I just want to make some monogrammed ribbons for my projects. Any thoughts? So, oh, I wish my computer would let me do it because, Maureen, I went to eBay. I'm going to put you with Bonnie and Melissa, because when we're done, if Facebook lets me, I'm going to share some links for them. I'm going to share a link for you because on eBay, and I found some embroidery hoops that say that they're compatible with the Brother PE 100. It was all kinds of different listings for hoops, and one of them was $69.99, and you got 4 hoop sizes, 4 different hoops, and it says that it's compatible with your machine. So go check out eBay, because I don't think you can just use a regular embroidery hoop with your embroidery machine. I don't know that that would work. Trying to think if there's a way you could do that, but more than likely it has some little device that your hoop hooks into and keeps that embroidery hoop stabilized, and it won't work unless it reads that something is there. Check out eBay. I'll post a link as soon as Facebook starts cooperating with me and lets me post links again, I'll post it. But you could just go to eBay and type in Brother PE100 hoops, and a whole page of listings come up. Now, of course, anytime I suggest someone goes to a site like eBay is if it's something you want to order, make sure that they have a large number or good feedback. Don't buy from a seller that you are unsure about, and check out their feedback. Check out the listing description. Make sure that it does say that it's compatible. Maybe even send that seller a question, because you can send them questions and tell them the machine you have. And if they are a reputable seller, they will respond to you and let you know everything you need to know. But I am like 95% sure that you can get embroidery hoops, even though your machine is older. I'm willing to bet that you can get some hoops for it. And that's really the biggest cost of an embroidery machine, is the machine itself. Although the hoops for mine are pretty dang on expensive. But $69.99 for 4 different size hoops, and the shipping was like $9 or something. So check that out, Maureen, and I'll post a link for that particular listing. But there's a whole pages of them. And so I would check out eBay. And then, because I'm thinking you can get some hoops for your machine. And then you can make all the little monogrammed ribbon tags that you want to make. Because I don't think that it's going to work with just a regular embroidery hoop. If you can do it with a regular embroidery hoop, and somebody knows how, please let me know. Because if you can do that and I can save a lot of money on my embroidery machine, I would love to learn how. Seriously, Bernina embroidery hoops, I don't know why they're so expensive. That is crazy. It's just plastic, right? Glory day. All right, Maureen, I'll post some links. I have 3 links that I'm going to post as soon as Facebook lets us. And that finishes up our topics for this evening. Oh, you know what? Look. Ta-da! I was able to save a picture of it. So there's the 4 hoops right there. That's what they look like. And I can't exactly tell what size they are, but they look like really good size hoops. So again, I'm going to post that link for you. I'm thinking you can get some to fit your machine, and then you can start embroidering your little heart's desire. You can stay busy, busy, busy. I'm glad I saw that. Okay, that's all of our topics for this evening. I can't believe we got through that in an hour's time. Let me just check, make sure we're still going. So links. Let me put this up where I'm not going to forget this. Right on my book of everythingness. We're still live. I'm going to take a sip of coffee and then we're going to talk about a challenge. My coffee is probably cold now. So I really love the calls of action from you all this week. I hope that y'all are able to share some 3D elements of your quilts and the display ways that you display your quilts. Because I think sharing is caring. And I tend to be very like one-minded about things until I see something like on Pinterest and I'm like, whoa, that's such an awesome idea. Why didn't I ever think about that? Right? And so we would all love to see how you display your quilts and your 3D elements on your quilts. All right. For this week's challenge, let's go to this screen first. I don't know, what did y'all think of the challenge from last week? What inspired that challenge was my jelly plate quilt. I just posted yesterday the little video for the quilt label for that, which I misspelled one of the words in. Some days I think I should just really slow down. And what's really funny about that is I had done a Google search for the word embracing and wrote it down before digitizing that quilt label. And I still spelt it wrong. Anyway, the jelly plate quilt. That is me embracing something that I had forgotten, put away for a long time, painting. I was able to incorporate the painting in with my fabric and quilt world, and it was so much fun. I cannot wait to get to that, to where we can do some videos on that. But I've also seen several posts this past week of your forgotten gifts, and I was just really happy to see that you embraced that challenge. And so I have a fun challenge for you this week. And the challenges, you know, they're not mandatory. Just something fun, something creative, something to break up our big projects that we're working on. Something to do, maybe something to look forward to. Maybe we need something different to do to get us out of the normal pattern that we are in. And for me, that's working, you know, the things that I have to do every day. Something to think about, spark some interest. So you don't have to participate in the challenge, but it's so much fun if you do. And I hope you post pictures if you do. So for this week, I thought it would be really fun. Let's see, where am I? Focus, Lisa, focus. Here we go. We're going to use this caption, "Dare to believe that anything is possible." Now, this is an open project. I want you to write this saying down and really think about it. But what I've done, and again, Facebook was not playing along nicely this evening. I should have done this morning when it was playing along. So right now, there's a post on our group, and there's two files. There's a PDF, and there's an SVG file, and they're both in my Dropbox. I tried to load them into our files section on our group page, which would make them so much easier to access and download from, because not everybody likes Dropbox. Currently, Dropbox is my only option until Facebook starts to behave. As soon as it does, I'm going to load these up into our files section in our group. So the PDF has templates of this saying, "Dare to believe that anything is possible." It fits all on one page. I've done a right side image and a mirror image. So depending on however you want to use it, those options are there. If you have a cutter like a Cricut or a Brother, any of those cutting machines, and you can use an SVG file, there's an SVG download as well. And I just lost my train of thought. So you have the PDF templates and the SVG. Now, of course, you don't have to use those. I'm just giving you something to start with if you need something tangible to work with. You can blow these up in your printer and make them larger. You could reduce the size to make them smaller. But here's what I want you to think about doing with them. I make notes. I did not make notes on them. You could put this applique onto a sweatshirt. You could paint this on canvas and hang it up in your office or your studio or your kitchen. You could put it on a quilt. You could put it on a quilt label. You could, let's see, paint it on a wooden sign. So much stuff you could do with this. You could paint this on fabric. I had all these things written down of ways that you could make a project out of this, and I didn't write them down. And so now I'm drawing a blank, of course, but I want you to come up with a project that incorporates this saying, and we're going to choose a color, which makes this even more of a challenge. Okay, this is where the challenge part comes in. Okay, we're going to elevate. Oh yeah, the templates are available in the file section. No, they're not. They're currently not available in the file section. There's a comment on our page. In the comment section, that's where you'll find the files until Facebook starts to behave. How we're going to make this a challenge is we're going to pick a color that you have to work with. And for me, not having control of the color that I'm working with, that's my challenge. I could make a million things that have this saying on them when I'm not put on the spot to think of what I'm going to do, okay? But I could think of a million projects that would look awesome with this saying on it. You could cut this out in vinyl and put it on a t-shirt. You could make a mug rug, all kinds of stuff. Where my challenge is I would probably use purple because that's my go-to color. However, we're going to pick a color and we're not going to have control over it. We're going to pick from my fancy crayon box that my girls, I've inherited this from Bethany's 9-year-old crayon box. This is from when she was 9. We're going to pick a color. Okay, I'm not looking, I'm just reaching in and picking a color. Hopefully it's a good one. Yellow. I would have never picked yellow. How many of you would have picked yellow as your go-to color for a project? So this is our challenge. We're going to use yellow. We're going to use the saying, dare to believe that anything is possible. And the genre of craft is totally up to you. And I want you to use your imagination, think about it for a day or two, and come up with something, some kind of finished project that incorporates that saying with the primary. Of course, you can use other colors, but primarily we're using yellow. Does this seem like fun to you guys? I've been thinking about this for a couple of days. I was like, I cannot wait to share this. It might just be me that thinks that this is going to be so much fun. And when you make your projects, I hope that you share them on our group. I think it's going to be so much fun throughout the week. I enjoyed last week seeing everyone participating in last week's challenge. I think it's going to be so much fun to follow along this coming week to see what we come up with. Just all of the different ideas, because we're all so, we have a wide range of different things that we do. You could crochet something. Could you crochet something and put that on there? I don't know. I don't know if you could do that. You could embroider this onto something. I don't know. I could sit here all night and think of ways that you could do this. But if you want some templates, I designed them. Don't forget to go get those. And like I mentioned, when Facebook is being nice, I'll upload them in the file section. It's way easier just to find them there. But right now they're in my Dropbox. What do you think? What do you think about this challenge? Do you think that this is something fun that we could do every week? For me, it's something small, not going to take like several days of attention, and it's something I could work on when I'm doing larger projects, sort of keep my mind fresh and like renewed. So can't wait to hear what you have to think about this project, and yellow is our color. So that is our live for tonight. I really wish that my computer was fast enough that I could pull up the comment section on my computer and read along. If you are here during the live or even watching the replay, I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us. I believe this is my family away from family. I feel like y'all are some really awesome people. I wish that we lived closer, that we could actually meet in person. Sometimes I feel that it's a small little disconnect because we're online, but then sometimes I feel like we're in the same room together. So what's really awesome is that we're all over the world and we're brought together through Facebook. So even though I complain about Facebook not cooperating a lot of the times, I'm really thankful for it because we get to hang out on Monday evenings. So, are you going to do the challenge? Is that something that you think you might want to play along with? I'm actually really excited about it. I might be the only one. Yellow is not my go-to color, so we'll see what we come up with. I'll be posting my picture sometime this week. I haven't even started this project because we just picked the color, but now my mind keeps racing to what yellow fabrics do I have? And I would hope that you can pull stuff from your stash, things that you already have. And if you don't have a lot of yellow, maybe there's a shirt in the closet that's yellow that you don't wear anymore. And you can cut that up. And which gives me a really awesome idea for next week's challenge. See, I'm already thinking about next week. So it has been so much fun hanging out with you. I really think that we got through all of those topics and slideshow pictures a lot faster than what I was thinking we were going to do this evening. So I think we're going to call it a night because I feel like I'm missing so much with the comments. I'm just like, I gotta go read those. I hope you all have a fantastic week. Feel free to share your work. Feel free to share questions throughout the week. I hope that you're not just waiting until Monday. If you're working on a project and you come across something that you need help with, feel free to share it throughout the week and get help right when you need it. We have a group of really helpful people. There's very rarely a post that doesn't get some kind of interaction on it. And yeah, y'all are just so helpful. I love that about this group. So thank you so much for helping each other. I love this group. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are like my family. And yeah, this group is doing exactly what I envisioned it to do when I set out to start the group. So thank you all for being such awesome members and family and friends. And I hope you enjoy the group as much as I do. Now I'm going to unplug and I'm going to go hang out with Harlan and read your comments. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to start seeing your pictures this week. As soon as I can, I'm posting some links. And as soon as I can, I'm uploading some files for you. So you can check those out if you need templates or SVGs to use. You can totally make up your own as well. All right. I hope you all have a fantastic evening. I cannot wait to see you throughout our week. And let's see. There we go. I found the stop streaming button. I hope you all have a fantastic night. I'll see you all really soon. Bye.